Greetings, everyone. I'm Sophis, and as before, in every time we have a major content update, I'm joined by Bootman, and now we're going to sink our teeth into Season 3 and all the goodies that kinda got stealth dropped on us, because, yeah, this was quite a surprise, and
Oh, very much.
yeah, I think everyone's pretty excited for it because I don't think anyone was counting on a DLC like this close to the release of Ark and Prophecy. I mean, I wasn't even done thinking up architect stuff, and now I already have a lot of things to speculate and theorycraft with. Not only what's coming in Throne of Bloods next month, but also, whatever they give us as far as the free update goes.
Yeah, I'll just say that I'm really happy with the direction they've gone with these DLC. I think that we're going to get a lot of really great stuff, and I've got some really high hopes for stuff coming up.
This was a pretty substantial reveal. I mean, they were playing this one pretty close to the chest. I didn't expect like substantial info on every little thing. I mean, of course, they've done as before, where the further away something is, the more you know indirect the kind of information is, a little more incomplete. But I didn't expect to get as much as we did, for instance, for Rise from Ruin. But yeah, right now I think we have a few options. We could start with Cosmic Wonder, which I think is a very brief aside because, like before, it's a very tiny DLC, just to kind of encourage you to get the season pass. But then we can go
We may
all
as
in.
well talk about it for completeness' sake.
Yeah, we may as well talk. And uh, we'll say this. I'm just gonna check. I think it's this one. Yes, it is exactly this one. This is the trait that you get with Cosmic Wanderer. And far as most people are concerned, I think this is the meaty thing that you get because the item, it's pretty much two weapon types and wizard items. But yeah, this is pretty much what's going to really affect gameplay. And
Yeah,
yeah, Bootman and I were discussing it last night when we got the stealth drop, and suddenly this thing was right on our face. And for a moment, we thought this was going to completely change the game as far as builds are concerned. But the longer you look at it, and at first you get the impression that it's really something, game changing. But then when you get to the nitty gritty of things and tome requirements, it doesn't change all that much.
yeah, the top end really isn't super relevant, because you can only pick one tier 5 tome, right? So that's not going to be contributing a huge amount. And then tier 4 tomes, I mean, how often are you going to be in a position where you need something like this to get your tier 4 tomes? It's not often. It's going to be like a very special circumstance. So I honestly think that the most relevant thing for builds here is actually the first effect, where you can have a lot of random tomes from tier 1 and 2, and then still get whatever you want at tier 3 and pivot into whatever your primary amounts will be for the late game.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're in agreement here because we really tried theory crafting a few ideas, trying to think how to get the most bang for the buck of this new trait. And I think there's some room for some niche builds, which could be interesting, but as it stands, it really won't change all that much. It's just a very neat astral trait because oftentimes, a few of my builds, at least, even ones on the channel, I've had to pick a society trait that was astral. And so having one that gives this sort of benefit, depending on the build, I think it could be much nicer than having to pick, for instance, mana channelers when it's not really a kind of caster build.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they do a good job with these. they've had a few instances of minor traits being released, and typically speaking, they tend to be very wacky and they tend to be, just very niche. And I think that it's a good way to go where we're not missing out on anything super powerful, but it's something very unique that we could potentially do some fun stuff with.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's more or less on par with the one from the last season pass, which was the one that gives your whole faction forced march and faster movement. I think it has its place, but it's not going to be meta defining.
No, it's not. But I will say that one is like the equivalent of salt to me. Where if I've got nothing else to do with a society trait, I often will do that. But
Yeah, that's fair. Fair
it's hard to
enough.
go wrong.
To me, I
But yeah,
usually yeah. To me, the salt one is usually prolific swarmers because that upkeep is still very relevant. But yeah, I take your point. And yeah, for everyone, again, you do get items and item forge stuff, but the really relevant thing is the society trait. This is like a new item that gives you 3 damage channels by default, which can be neat depending on which build you do. And yeah, this is the getup that you get. Nothing special. It's cool. It's cool. But yeah, I don't think you're if
oh, I think the outfit is very cool. My only issue is
yeah.
that they already put all the outfit on a ruler already. So if there's already an existing ruler outfit, I feel a bit weird putting it on my guys. But
Yeah, I mean, I think at least for me, it's going to be a lot of mixing and matching. It's neat to have a robe that's going to be kind of culture agnostic that I can just slap on any sort of ruler or hero. That aside, the only other thing is an item forge benefit, which lets you have a new support ability that you can teleport a unit closer to you and heal it. But again, it's neat, but my point is, if you aren't getting the season pass and you're skipping and just picking and choosing what you want, you're not missing out a lot if you skip the Cosmic Wanderer thing. But yeah, if you do get it, it's kind of neat. Nothing amazing, but cool. So yeah, I think we can move on to the more meaty part of the discussion, which is Thrones of Blood. So yeah,
all
this
right.
one this one is very, very interesting because we're getting a new ruler type. Greetings, everyone. Future Sophis here. So, as I was editing this video, this new dev diary dropped and gave us a lot of info on the vampire ruler. So, now we know a lot more. So, what you're going to see next is me and Bootman discussing prior to this information. I think we didn't quite get anything wrong per se. I think it was fairly on point with our discussion, and it's just neat that there's now new info, including confirming that we indeed will get vampire heroes and they'll get a unique hero skill tree, and even the signature skills are unique. So, yeah, very neat stuff. So, yeah, just a small correction, and back to the video. And by having a new ruler type, we finally can, mix and match things. And there's a lot of things that aren't completely clear yet, but it's interesting that they still find ways to shift how things work. Because back when Giant Kings were upcoming, we were discussing, I think everyone already fills a certain niche and how are giants going to be different, and they did make them quite distinct. And this time, I would never think of a ruler type that, for instance, shifts how your heroes behave and also changes your wizard tower to like a vampire castle. I'm very curious as to where they'll go with that.
Yeah, I think that was pretty awesome. I think that the focus on ritual spells is a good pivot. It was always sort of an interesting thing where the the Eldritch Sovereigns, they were the only ones who used thralls really up to that point. And they had some really cool spells. Like it's honestly it's an underused mechanic by the fans, the unique spells that the Eldritch Sovereigns get. So I'm looking forward to seeing what sort of wacky stuff they give the vampires to do their big spooky spells.
Yeah, and I think we're pretty much getting something that, at least to me, feels like a middle of the road between Wizard King and Champion, insofar as they have their own thing, like Wizard King, but they seem a little closer to the race that they control, because at least you'll be, I think, most of the times turning your race into ghouls, but then I guess turning your heroes into vampires as well as it's kind of like a vampire coven. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not entirely sure what route they're going with the way they influence heroes. Was it and transform recruited heroes into vampire servants who share their earned experience with you.
Yeah.
So that's what we have on the matter, and it's hard to say what that truly means, but maybe
Well,
we are looking at a vampire ruler that can get to like level 20 very fast and easy.
that's actually possible. I'm going to draw from my Warhammer experience here and say this earned experience. There are a couple lords which do that in Warhammer, where I think in particular, Skarsnik, it's one of the goblins. He has that kind of thing where he steals experience from every other lord that you have active on your map and gets experience from that. So it may as well be something like this, which is kind of new, but it's a direction that they already started going with, because last update they did change Tome of Mirrors, and they added the very neat thing that you can get experience and level up your ruler passively just by having the city structure that comes with that tome. And so I guess they're really focusing, because, and it's a fair thing, because depending on the match type that you play, it's not very often that you get to see the full potential of your ruler or heroes. I mean, even I, playing around and testing and doing longer matches to kind of figure out builds, sometimes I don't even really make it to 16, or let alone 20. I can count on my fingers how many times playing a match I got to, level 20. So, yeah, I think that's a neat possibility. And if they're going that route, I'm hoping that they add more ways to do that than just playing a vampire or having that particular tome at tier 4.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I think that's about the route we're going on these guys. I'm more interested with the way that they are going to be turning the heroes into vampire servants. I'm curious what that comes with. Like, will these actually be vampires or will they be thralls? I think everyone is sort of expecting Tome of the Crimson Reign to turn their race into vampires. I don't think we're getting that. I think that we are almost explicitly not getting that based off of the information we currently have.
Yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see. Here's the picture, one of the ones that you shared when we were discussing. This is the racial transformation, or rather, the transformation your ruler comes with, probably one of the rituals. And as far as we know, this box cuts off. We don't get to see if there's other bonuses. So
To be fair, we don't know for sure that this is what comes from the vampire themselves. I just suggested that as something I think would be a very cool approach to this. I think it's very possible because it mentions an exarch, um, and I don't know in my brain. I don't know how you integrate exarch with the tome and then have it be a thing that always occurs. It'd be like if, freaking what's a good example? golden, the golden realm makes all your units gold, and then it also gives a buff whenever they're around the golden golem. It's like that seems a bit weird. I don't know why it would work that way. But it being a ritual makes a lot of intuitive sense to me.
Yeah, I think all the hints point in that direction, so it's very probable that this is what it is. And again, another thing which a lot of people picked up, and you as well, that I totally missed out, but this kind of shine on these runes, basically on the armor of the Dark Culture soldiers, and you were speculating that we might get a Dark Culture update with the free update, right? I'm curious
The
because
the glowing green sigils in that armor there seem to basically prove it, because we've seen the glowing green sigils and we've seen no sigils. So we're getting at least one subculture, it seems.
yeah, I mean, I guess at the basis it could be like feudal, where you have two. It would be interesting if one is weakening the enemy and the other is making yourself stronger. Now we can talk about the tomes, which we're getting 3 this time around. I think that's pretty neat. We have pictures for 2 of them. We don't have for Crimson Rain. That's why we're pretty much speculating on whether that transformation we were just discussing is, from the tome, or if it's something from the new ruler type and a ritual. So actually,
That is one thing I find interesting is the little description it gives, though, is it empowers your high tier units. I'm really curious what that means.
I guess here we go. Yeah, this is curious because usually high tier units, they're not referring to like tier 3. At least I assume they aren't, or
No,
so,
I'm swinging fours and fives.
which would be pretty unique. I don't think there's many ways to empower tier 4s and 5s. I mean, tier 4s
Not
maybe.
yet.
Actually, no. Tier 4s you can with, if they're non-mythic, they still can,
Oh
because
yeah, for enchantments,
yeah,
and
enchantments
transformations.
wise, yeah. But
I will say though, it says, and has your faction embrace an ancient form of undeath? I really don't know what the odds are of them adding 2 new forms of undeath, so maybe it is significantly more likely that it will be from the tome.
that's also possible. That's also possible, which to me is kind of weird. I think it would make more sense to be tied with the vampire ruler, but whatever. Yeah,
It's really that Exarch thing that's throwing me off.
yeah, that's fair. Usually they're very straightforward with naming things. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's also possible. The thing is, undeads are eating very well lately because we just got new undead goodies last DLC, and right now we're getting a lot more undead goodies. So yeah, I would say undeads are about as well served as Materium.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean, three tomes. I'm happy. We usually get 2 tomes from drops like these, so I'm over the moon.
yeah, and before we go into each tome, then, since we're talking high tier units, this is something that Bootman and I were really excited about, where we finally have a mythic unit that is also a form unit.
Yep. Very weird.
Yeah, I don't think. Actually, no, I was thinking the Pirate Templar isn't mythic, it's a polearm.
Nope.
So, yeah, having a mythic unit that's a form unit is probably a first. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The other very interesting thing, at least for me, is it already comes with hyper awareness, which, if it's a form unit and then you can combine with, say, Tome of the Construct, you can get some pretty neat stuff done now. Or just the fact it can't be flanked, it makes it a very good frontliner, and its defensive stats are nothing to laugh about either. It's pretty solid, and since it's a form unit, you can boost it even further and further as you go on. So yeah, I'm curious why Mythic. I suppose it's because its abilities probably don't fit into any particular type, and unfortunately, that's going to mean that it's going to miss quite a few enchantments for its damage goes. But maybe you can make it into a very neat tank. I suppose. I don't know.
You would use it on a more transformation focused strategy over an enchantment strategy. I would say that in the meta, enchantment focus tends to be a really big deal. And unless we're going to get a lot more of these kinds of units, it's going to be a bit rough.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. I also have here this other unit we got a glimpse at, and it could be pretty interesting. I mean, it's nothing super special. It's just an innately undead unit with that's also ranged. I guess that kind of fills the ranks up because I think otherwise, unless you're considering cultural units turned undead, we pretty much just had the skeleton archers, I think.
There's also skeleton mages.
No, 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 but I mean ranged, not battle
Oh,
mage.
then yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, in terms of raw ranged, yeah.
yeah. So,
I think it's interesting because there aren't too many archers, and I'm actually rather so there's plenty of archers. I'm less interested in it being undead. I'm more interested in it being an animal. It is an animal archer, and that is very rare.
that's fair enough.
I think the only one that currently exists
The
is
porcupine,
the porcupine.
yeah. I think, no, actually, yeah, ranged it is because I was thinking of the lizards, but they're skirmishers. So, yeah.
They are skirmishers.
Yeah. So,
So yeah, I'm a big fan of animal strategies just because they're weird and quirky and hard to do appropriately. So this might squeeze its way into one of my current things, depending on how you source it. Because currently we have no word on that.
yeah, it may be a unit in the wild and you'll have to capture it, or maybe it's from one of the tomes. So, using that segue, this is the first tome that we have access to. And yeah, I mean, it's a tier 1 tome, which I'm very excited for. It's been a while since we got a tier 1 tome, and it fills up the hybrids a little bit more, which is always good. So, yeah, also a neat thing is, at least as far as the two tomes we can see in full like this go, we're getting special province improvements. So I'm very
Yep.
happy to
All for
see.
conduits.
Yeah, but we're getting special province improvements, which is the big thing. Usually, it's a kind of toss up whether we get one or not, and it seems this time is pretty front loaded.
Yeah, I
So,
was surprised we got two.
yeah. And from what we can look here, and based on the previous wording and everything they use, blood drinking blades and sanguine focus. This is what we would assume is a ranged enchant, but for battle mages and maybe supports, or maybe supports and not battle mages, but definitely not a ranged thing because focus. The closest thing we have is frenzying focus, which is, I believe, battle mages and supports. Not.
There's also lightning focus.
Oh, yes, yes, we also have that. And yeah, it's for the casters, not for usual ranged. So this is pretty much going to be more of a if you're going down the mage path, I believe. And yeah, we get the Blood Cultist, which I don't have it here, but when we were discussing it, we had a. It's a very small image, nothing, too big, but one of these powers is like you use it and then they die, right? Oh, no,
Yep, I'm guessing that's Dagger of the Right. That's the only thing that fits
yeah,
in there.
yeah, so it's pretty neat. I think it's unusual to have a unit that sacrifices itself. I don't think we have that many yet. But
Not off the dome. There's some units that explode, but other than that,
yeah, I think Spitterlings, but they're summons, not a unit you literally hire. But
Yeah, I don't think so. It's interesting, but I do like this is my very easy prediction on these things. I don't think it's crazy. I think Sanguine Focus is going to be a thing that lets you apply bleed via your mage attacks, and I think Blood Drinking Blades will increase damage on bleeding enemies, just like a normal classic setup for the range of the melee. However, I would say there's a non-zero chance because it says Blood Drinking Blades. Non-zero chance that the blades are the ones that cause the bleeding, and then focus gets more power when enemies are bleeding. We've seen similar things happen with Tome of Decay, or Tome of Cycles, sorry.
yeah, Tome of
Um,
Cycles.
in Tome of Cycles, the melee units provoke the condition, and then the range units benefit.
Yeah, that's possible. And although very far fetched, and if it was a possibility, it would be busted. We could be looking at life leeching at tier 1, which it's unlikely, but you know,
Very unlikely.
not outside the realm of possibility, just unlikely. Because if it is, then this becomes another tome of discipline.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be way too good.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. I'm mostly happy because they're not really just doing tier 2s, and they're looking at the tome spread, which makes me happy that they're filling up, more than just the bog standard. Which brings us to Tome of Torment, which is another single affinity, which we have been getting a couple of these lately, so that's nice. And it's
Yep.
a shadow one that doesn't have anything to do with undead or frost. So nice variety for a shadow.
Yeah, tier 3 was definitely where Shadow was choking out the most. Getting this tome here is very helpful.
Yeah, and again we get a unique province improvement, and yeah, again a conduit. So curious to see. The Painbringer is the unit we were looking at earlier. That's also a farm unit. Very interesting. Uh, Tormenting projectiles means, yet more ranged stuff. I'm curious as to what this will do because from the name, maybe it's something about morale. And if it is, a morale strategy might be more. I mean, not that it isn't viable, but having more tools to really focus on it would be neat. Because now we have the Warlock to do that. Then you have Doom Herald at tier 2, and then it branches Shadow out better because I'm pretty sure that otherwise it would be way too undead. And because the Painbringer does say that they drain the vitality, so yeah, I'm assuming this is life leeching that they have, but I don't think it's going to be a life leeching ranged enchantment. That would be a little too strange. From everything
The only thing we really have on this is the description on the tome, which is enemies by turning their very actions against them and make your units empowered by pain.
yeah. So
I'm not quite sure where it's going with that. I mean, you're kind of predicting something morale related. I think that's pretty likely. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that could happen. Turning their very actions against them. What does that mean? So if it was just something like whenever your enemy moves and attacks, they take damage, that'd be weird to me.
could be something to do with fumbling, perhaps, or maybe I don't know. Enemies that are low health. You know.
Hmm. Let's see. If I was to, I think you're probably right that morale is the most likely way to go. I don't think we're going to get a whole new status effect and thing just from this tome. And that's the only way I can think of to do that. Maybe the guys at Triumph they'll show me how ignorant I am very soon here when they reveal their incredibly amazing idea for this. But yeah, I'm currently spacing.
Yeah, because far as all these names go, tormenting, agonize, pain-bound, anguish, all this wording suggests morale. But yeah, maybe it's something entirely new. I don't know. Guess we'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah, I think this pretty much covers the two tomes, what we know of this. Now we can circle back to something I mentioned very quickly, which is instead of the wizard tower, the vampire ruler is getting a castle. And it's kind of curious what that might suggest because the wizard tower is a building that has a lot to it. Because, yeah, you might just be thinking, oh, okay, all the wizard tower tiers, but when you think about it, there's a lot of, satellite buildings insofar as the Arcane Observatory and I believe the Room of Teleportation and all that, which only really show up when you build up the Wizard Tower. So I'm curious if it's just going to be, copy and paste of those functions, but with a vampire theme, or maybe just straight up those things without any change. But we can also be looking at unique building options exclusive to building up your vampire castle, or maybe something
I
different with the crypts.
I think that's a really good call out. I think it's very possible. The only thing that would hold me back on that is simply because the reason why everybody has access to all of those is because they're really important and kind of critical upgrade for the late game. It's good capacity for everyone to have. So I would be very interested if they found another means of exploring things. Yeah, I don't know what they'll do with that, but I am interested because I think you're right that it is possible that they have their own completely unique building path.
I mean, I think the core functions will still be the same, but what I'm kind of theorizing is maybe they'll have additional effects. In the same way that the giant is the only one that can get six six points on the item forge, maybe the vampire is the only one that can get additional effects for the crypt and the prison and the observatory and all that. I don't know.
Yeah, could be possible.
Yeah, aside from this, I believe, is there anything else you think we might have missed out on talking about here? Because, I mean, yeah, new world map content, which we always get, some neat new realm traits and all that.
I guess we should talk about the vampires seem to have some sort of terraforming capacity. It seems to me it's possible that they don't. It's possible that there's some other thing going on here, but they talk about blotting out the sun. Um, and then there was let me get it up real quick. Um, defiling right or whatever. It's something on those lines. It shows up in one of the gifts, and then it clearly has the terraforming effect on it. And that seems since I don't see defiling right in either of the first two tomes, that's got to be a vampire thing. So yeah, vampires are going to be terraforming in some capacity, and I'm curious about how that will stack with other things. Because honestly, I'd be really interested in stacking vampire, corruption, whatnot, with umbral corruption. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, but I think, as we were discussing earlier, I don't think that we'll actually get mixing corruptions. I think that's unlikely. I think
Yeah, I don't think so.
at best, what you'll probably be able to do, which I still think would be pretty neat, is like combine vampire corruption with Fey Mists. But yeah, I'm also interested in new magic material, what that may mean, because we do already have a lifesteal effect that you can get from the usual materials. So I don't know if they'll shift that to this new material, if it's going to be unique stuff, because usually um, Void Stone is the other one that you get.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more like that. I think it's going to be a unique thing that applies to Sunless Lands.
Yeah, and I guess that's fair, but at the same time, then is Sunless Lands something that you can get with a normal realm, or is it something that a realm simply is?
I think that it seems to be a thing that so here's what I think it is. I think a sunless land is a land that already has a lot of the vampiric right stuff, the terraforming the vampires do. It already has that applied. That's what I think sunless lands is.
Well, I mean, it's possible. So you're thinking something like the Legends of Merida that giants have.
Yeah, I think it'll be a realm trait of some kind.
Yeah,
Yes.
so some place in the map might have this. I mean, it's possible, at least. Yeah, I think that would be a little more interesting because then you could have, at least as the expansions pile up, because I'm looking further than even season 3 with this. The idea of having a realm where you can have vampire lands and then you have a portal to the Umbral Abyss. And then we're getting maybe in the future to almost warlock levels of you can go to all kinds of different realities in the same campaign. It would be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as far as this goes, everything else I don't think we can speculate a lot on because this is a new ancient wonder and there's a new landmark. I mean, this we'll have to wait and see more of. And yeah, new wildlife units as we get. One thing we were curious about, and it will come up in a second. Otherwise, yeah, this unit. It seems to be a unit really because it does have a unit card. But it would be interesting if we got some kind of vampiric customization for giants or even dragons. Though, since we're getting a new ruler type, I think it might not be in the cards as much. Maybe, a thing or two like we got in the one with the Oathsworn culture, where we got like a magic seals that you can put on the back of your dragon. Maybe we'll get something like that, but yeah, I don't think we'll get like blood giants. It seems unlikely, at least.
No, yeah, I think that it's going to be pretty yeah, it's too bad because I want more aesthetics for the giant and eldritch sovereigns. I'd be I said it on the forums. I'd be happy to pay for a pure aesthetic DLC at this point as long as it didn't interrupt the flow of other DLC.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess they could do that. And yeah, for anyone else that isn't. I mean, there are mods, but I understand. I get what you mean because sometimes I do prefer things in an official capacity because if it's in an official capacity, it usually doesn't break and you don't have to be mindful of it. So if a DLC drops, you
Exactly.
you don't lose it. So it's much easier if it's already in the game versus a mod where you might have to wait on playing, new DLC until the mod gets updated. So I understand that's pretty much the pain of relying on mods. So yeah, I'm all for it. And they ran a survey a while back, and one of the things I submitted as a general ask was, please Triumph, since it is your IP, I hope that you have the license to do this. You know, add some stuff from the older IPs. I would love to see an Overlord customization option.
I do think we deserve that. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's pretty much a dead series by now, but man, that would be a trip down memory lane, and it would be very cool to have this kind of Sauron-ish customization. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is about what we have for Thrones of Blood. I don't think there's all that much left.
I don't think so. I think that's basically it. I'm going to move on to. I mean, that's gonna be the longest one too, because there's very little about the other ones.
Yeah, I think we can safely go to Rise from Ruin. And I really do like vampires. And actually, there's more information on the big one. I don't ask me why, but the Steam pages for like Cosmic Wanderer and these previews don't give as much info as the season pass. They really organized this well. So yeah, let's go with this one. We're getting a new culture. One DLC down. I'll assume this is going to be, first quarter next year.
I mean,
So,
it says January to March 2026.
oh, yeah. See, this is the power of reading comprehension. It's in such a small font with everything being bold that I totally missed out on it. But yeah,
Totally fair.
yeah. So Q1 2026. That's fair enough. And this is Q2 2026. So new culture. I'm very, 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 very curious about the nomad culture. And actually, there's a little more of a tease of it back here because they say, where was it? Adapted to survive and thrive in desolation. And so I'm curious if this means that we're getting a horde culture in Age of Wonders 4. And for those unfamiliar with what I mean when I say horde culture, in a game, for instance, like Warhammer, Total War Warhammer, you have these entirely independent kind of armies where they don't have a city and all the recruitment works off of your army leader and some generals. But I don't think that quite translates into Age of Wonders because territory matters a lot more in Age of Wonders, and I believe that a match naturally progresses to filling up every border, just like, in Civ, because at first you have the the world is very big and you're still exploring and trying to find goodies, then you kind of have an idea of how the world looks. So you kind of have a rush for resources before the enemy gets them. Then things kind of stabilize as every player empire, divides the world. So I don't think it's in the cards for us to get a pure horde faction because I think it would run very contrary to a lot of core gameplay. It could happen, but they would really have to tinker with a lot of stuff and make some really unique stuff to make that shine. So I'm
I mean,
kind
you'd almost have to be warlike in the late game if they did it that way.
yeah, you would have to pretty much attack and maybe raise a city just so you can have, a new stomping ground, which would kind of nullify the benefit of capturing a city because usually when you capture a
Yeah.
city, you do have the benefit of keeping it intact, all its resources, So,
But they do say benefit from desolation or surviving desolation. So maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want like an incredible warlike thing that just raises everything to the ground. I don't think we'll get that because we have the Reavers, which are very encouraged to be aggressive, and then we have Strife Oathsworn, which are very encouraged to be aggressive. So I don't think we're gonna get another one of those.
yeah, I agree. And also Barbarian, I guess. But yeah, I don't think, at least all the wording here, uh, I think they're going to be a little more passive than that. Or maybe, since we are getting so many subcultures, we do have one that is like that. And then we have one that's a little more chill. Uh, but
Yeah, I'd be happy to get some traveling peoples like merchants or whatever. That'd be fun. But my current bet on how it will work, if it's like it could always be bad, right? Or rather, it could always be shallow. It could always just be, oh, it's a regular city but with a nomad skin. However, I don't think Triumph would do that. I think Triumph are a bunch of cool dudes, and I think that they're going to do something more interesting than that. So, assuming they're doing something more interesting than that, I am betting on a heavily outpost focused culture.
Yeah, which is possible. And it would be very interesting because then your territory becomes pretty much fishing for the best stuff, the best spots. Because sometimes you do get the nicest resources and they're really far away. And the one thing is if that happens, one concern would be having a very fractured empire. And for that, I was kind of theorizing with Bootman when we were discussing Nomads at first that yes, we could have it work like an outpost, but looking into it, I would have to address the issue of, again, having a very fractured empire. So I'm looking at the idea of maybe it working moderately like an infestation, or at least not an infestation, but maybe it's a vassal system insofar as the AI takes over some of the obligations of protecting the territory from you. That way you can focus on roaming around. I don't know. Because,
I think that'd be very interesting. I don't know how that would actually play out, but I am definitely not against that.
yeah, because otherwise I think it would be very micromanagement intensive. Because if your goal is to establish a lot of outposts all across the world and you have to defend all of that, then unless you really rush teleporters or something else, it's going to be a nightmare to keep up with such a fractured empire. You're going to be putting
Yeah,
out fires all across your territory. Because the advantage of cities is, yeah, it can grow to an immense size, but it has only one central node, and that one central node is what you might, if it is sieged, you might lose everything else, you know. Because, yeah, things can be pillaged, but you can fix them fine. An outpost is a very small thing, and if you have a lot of them, then we're talking about having a lot of small nodes that if you lose them, you lose everything. It's a lot riskier. I don't know. But again, we're very deep into speculation territory. I mean, we're mostly working on the assumption that because it's Nomad, it has to be different from the usual city system. But yeah, we'll see.
yeah. I mean, maybe it will be. Now I can't really think of too many other options. I think we've explored the good options. I will say one thing that's interesting to me, if it does mean anything, is unearth lost magics. Because we already have some systems like that. We have the system whereby you get unique spells from the Umbral Abyss, not just from the Umbral Dwellings, but when you go around and just hunt treasures there, you can unlock specific, spells. And I think that's really cool, and that's why I'd be interested to see more unique spells that can be unlocked through unearthing them. I don't know if that means anything. It could just be flavor. It could be like unearth lost magic, and it's just tomes. It's like, well, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it could also be something prospecting like, just like how the architects have that now. They kind of inspect lost
I I'm
wonders.
imagining some. I'm imagining something like stellar excavations.
Yeah, that would be also a, yeah. Though we did have that in Planetfall, and it wasn't a
Yes.
very fun mechanic because basically you had to keep your army parked, and it.
Oh, don't say that. The Planet Fall boys are coming for you.
I mean, I'm one of them. I loved that game, but some mechanics really were kind of half cooked, and I think it's kind of anti-fun to just have your army sitting around doing nothing. And I think they addressed that very well with how wonders play out in Age of Wonders 4, because yeah, you have a lot of dilemmas, but you can tackle them right, head on, and you can solve them in a turn. It's not something
Yes.
very turn intensive. Could also be it could also be that it's a victory condition. The lost magics could be a new kind of thing, although it would be kind of similar to the seals victory or the magic victory, I suppose. But I don't know. They could be thinking of different ways to win a match.
Could be. I'm not. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. I will say I think the real big compunction to pick this is the explore breathtaking terrains and uncharted landscapes. I think that with both fans and the developers, the pre-crafted regions and the what are they called? Wondrous regions or whatever they are. Um like all the world map stuff they've added, especially in Giant Kings, that stuff was all smash hit, and I think that this DLC is gonna have a lot of that.
Yeah, I sure hope so, because I do love how these regions kind of flavor up an otherwise randomly generated map. It adds a little more life, a little more uniqueness. And if we get a ton of this, and besides, one thing we have to consider is this is coming along a free update, and every DLC they come up with something interesting free alongside the DLC. So could be that they add, this lost magic thing to everyone, or maybe we're getting, I don't know, regions unique to each culture. No, although that might be a bit much. But yeah, usually what we see in a DLC mirrors what they'll do far as free update goes.
Yes, there's typically some kind of relation, which is we're getting a dark update along with the vampires. Um, I think I know you wouldn't be exactly excited about this. I think there's a non-zero chance of a barbarian update with Rise from Ruin. Um,
I mean, I'm
but
all for it.
I have very specific reasons. I have very specific reasons for thinking that. It's because I am fully in on my outpost idea, and currently barbarians are the outpost culture, so they would have to change in some capacity if if the nomads were outpost focused. So I'd be interested in that.
I mean, if barbarians suddenly become more like infestations, I think that would line them up pretty well. I don't know. Could be part of a free update, something that makes them a little more distinct, because Nomad kind of steps on their toes the same way Primal did. And I think it's good that they're doing a pass on older cultures. I just hope that they also look into stuff like Reavers, because if everybody gets, subcultures now, it would be neat if they did a pass on older subcultures added by DLC, which didn't. And I think Reavers is the only one that didn't.
Yes, which is funny because I think Reavers needed subcultures more than any other. Um,
Yeah, the sad reality of being first, because they keep getting better with each DLC and update. So it's kind of sad that it doesn't have the same luster as it did when it released. But yeah,
I don't think Triumph will let it rot forever. I think Triumph are pretty cool dudes, and I think that especially once all the base cultures are updated to where they like them, I think there is a solid chance that they might do a Reaver update. Um, but we'll see.
yeah, we'll see.
I think that's enough for Rise of Rune, though. We can go to
Yeah,
Secrets of the Archmage, which has
and
even less information.
yep, this is pretty much, here's a DLC. It might contain content.
Well, so this is the thing, and this is why I'm going to stand by what I'm going to come to say. If you look at this, it says basically nothing. Okay.
Yeah,
Almost all DLC has story realms. Almost all DLC has narrative content in some capacity. Almost all DLC has tomes. A lot of times, the wildlife and units roam the lands comes straight from the tomes. So that's not even suggesting anything specific itself. All those wildlife units could be straight up from the tomes. And then just customization options, music track. This is essentially confirming nothing. Now, I look at that in my mind, and I think one of two things is going to happen. Either the narrative events are going to be huge. It's going to be a in-depth mechanic, something more like the happenings and stuff like that, and it's going to be very relevant. Or two, this is going to have a lot of tomes in it. It's going to be the tome DLC. Uh,
I,
and I am all in favor of a DLC that is all tomes. And there's a non-zero chance that it could be new tier 5 tomes because it's Secrets of the Archmages. Like, that's not impossible.
I mean, that's entirely possible. And it would be neat to get, for instance, hybrid tier 5 tomes. That would be pretty cool. Or, pure ones for some reason. But yeah, I'm with you because, yeah, it could be just the tome DLC. And
Yeah,
yeah,
they said that story is the focus for it, so it's possible that could be the narrative events thing, but I also think that the tome DLC is very possible.
yeah. If they usually tackle things as thematically appropriate, so yeah, it would be here and now in this DLC where they would consider something like that. So yeah, I believe we pretty much covered as much as we could cover with current information, the season pass and the new content, and
Well, not to be a salty man here, but I do want to call out people on the Age of Wonders 4 forums real quick. Not by name, but there's a lot of people on the forums who are upset with the route this DLC season has taken. They say they want deeper content, not wider content. And every time I have to tap the sign that says, you don't want core feature improvement in DLC. You never want that under any circumstances. And if a company starts paywalling core features, you should stop supporting that company.
that's extremely fair because after all, the the this is just a roadmap of stuff you can buy. And they have given us very meaty core updates every DLC, especially the last one. The Griffin, was it? I think so, yeah. The Griffin update was a very hefty free update that tackled a lot of stuff and brought a lot of goodies. And I think it's silly to look at, oh my god, why can't I throw money at, core updates? I think that you made a very valid point there, far as this is concerned. Yeah, because if we're paying for polishing what we already have, I think we're already, in a bad spot. I think, yeah, the focus should be new goodies. One thing I would be surprised is if we go through this entire season pass and we don't get a new class. Because we always got some, since they came up with the idea of classes for Age of Wonders 4, bringing back the old stuff, I would be shocked if none of these DLCs opened up some sort of venue for a new kind of hero class and ruler class. I think it would be very neat because, I mean, the Battle Saint is quickly becoming my favorite new class. Sadly, it is locked behind DLC, which I don't appreciate as much because every other class is pretty much free. And the Battle Saint does feel stronger and more versatile, so, a little bit of concern with power creep, but it's very minor compared to, all the free stuff they give us. But it is a small concern of mine because Battle Saint is a very strong class and it is locked behind Archon Prophecy. So if we do get new classes,
You could.
I do hope that they aren't DLC locked. Though if they are and they have extra work and they're really meaty and different, I guess I can be happy with that. I just hope that, Battle Saint is the odd one out and we get new free classes.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Honestly, I'm not convinced of Battle Saint being so powerful that it's bad, but that it is locked behind DLC. But I have used Battle Saint one time, so maybe we should talk about that some other time and
Yeah,
figure
yeah,
that out.
yeah. We can discuss that in more depth. But yeah, usually the thing is, it's yeah. I'm not gonna get into that. Yeah, I could rant about Battle Saint for a while, but yeah. So yeah, I believe that's everything, everyone. We covered a lot of ground with what little we had. I do believe we'll be revisiting this closer to Thrones of Blood, as we often do. And yeah, we just wanted to get this hot off the presses. And I know I'm already a little behind everyone else because I've seen quite a handful of other people already putting up their reactions and talking about this. But yeah, I still wanted to talk while it was relevant because this is very exciting. This is the confirmation that we uh, will have a season 3. It was up in the air up until the 30th. So getting this stealth dropped and suddenly we have a whole new season to look forward to. I'm very happy with that. And again, I'm already looking way ahead, but hopefully this isn't the last season. So, yeah, I think, yeah, this is pretty much it. Thank you, everyone, for listening this far. And thank you again, Bootman, for joining me. And yeah, I believe we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye, guys.